well, let me go and thank you for all being here for this incredible presentation about effective resumes. So let's go through the agenda. I will do the speaker introduction, tell you about our upcoming events, and then I will stop sharing my screen for the presentation from Wells Fargo. And hopefully I will put on the chat the QR code and the link for you to tell us what you thought about this great presentation. So my name is Ana Rodriguez. I'm currently responsible for the event content via the Research and Impact Office. I have a doctorate degree from UMass Amherst in Organizational Development and Training, and I have been working at SHIP for 7 years this past September, so I need to update this. And I'm a lifetime member, and I love to cook and ride my bike during the summer. So let me introduce to you Paloma Barraza Carreon from Wells Fargo. Paloma is a senior recruiter on the university programs team and is based in Phoenix, Arizona. She manages the intern and full-time hiring for the technology program. Paloma began her career with Wells Fargo in 2004 as a part-time teller. And in 2006, she joined the Human Resources Department as an HR specialist. In 2010, she was one of the first of her team to pilot a hybrid role of HR specialist / recruiter, supporting regional banking. From 2011 to 2017, Paloma assisted her recruited team with different assignments, projects that supported the recruiting needs for regional banking within California and Oregon. In 2017, Paloma began the next chapter in her recruiting career and joined the university programs recruiting team. I hope you welcome Paloma, but before I leave you with her, please do know, keep an eye for the January Latinx Factor and why. I am revamping the entire program of Latinx Factor to include topics to train you to have a better chance to obtain a job or internship at our national convention or at any other convention that they have, a career fair that you might or not be at, or I hope that you attend in 2025. For example, a possible topic for a January event is a lot of people have talked to you about having your elevator speech. No, we will give you a new perspective of how you can be remembered by those recruiters that you talk to with a different approach. So please keep an eye. Now, without further ado, I will leave you with Paloma Barraza Carreon about her topic. And welcome. Let me stop sharing my screen. And it is all for you. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much for such a lovely introduction there, Anna. Looking forward to chatting with you all about, some effective resumes here and how to really vamp it up. I'm really proud to be part of this chapter of SHIP and doing all of this. So just a little bit before we get into our effective resume workshop, since Wells Fargo is presenting, wanted to give you all just an update about, who Wells Fargo is. As mentioned, my name is Paloma Barraza Carreon. I will be your next, leader here for the next few minutes or so, or maybe the next hour, in just reviewing some information about Wells Fargo, but most importantly, talk about your resumes and leaving it up to any questions that may or may not come through the queue. So if we can proceed to the next slide. So just a little bit about Wells Fargo. So we've been in business since 1852. We all can Google Wells Fargo and see what we are, but just, to reiterate, Wells Fargo is a leading financial services company that proudly serves consumers, small businesses, and middle market and large companies. And we couldn't do this all without, just having the wonderful employees that Wells Fargo has here. I can let you guys review this later on by Googling Wells Fargo, but I just wanted to go over the 6 expectations of Wells Fargo because I feel those fit in anything that we do. And that's, we want to ensure that at Wells Fargo, we're embracing candor, doing what's right, being great at execution, learning and growing, championing diversity, equity, and inclusion, and building high performing teams for our managers in the future state of Wells Fargo. And that's going to pretty much be led with part of our topic here, getting that resume out there to potentially start that career within Wells Fargo. So, as we transition to the next steps of resume writing, I know this is a topic that's on everyone's mind because we all at one point have had to put together a resume. So let's start with, how do we understand our resumes? How is a company looking at what a resume is? So just at a, bird's eye view here, you can see that it's a ticket to an interview. It's a first impression, having relevant experience on there, being able to convey career advancements. So what is it? It's a sales pitch. It's something that you are providing to a future respective employer to really sell yourself and be able to give that elevator pitch, but on a piece of paper if you're not having the opportunity to talk to someone right away in person. So we want to help you as a company understand how to potentially excel that resume, how to make it stand out, some tips and tricks from a recruiter, so you can see what a company sees on their side. So here on the screen, you're going to see some tips from a recruiter. Now, this is just, general statements that are on here. Do not take it and go, this is exactly what I need to do. These can evolve. But first and foremost, you want your resume highlight to be a real.
Mhm.
Keep it succinct.
next,
You want to ensure that, oh, if someone's not on mute, thank you. So we want to ensure for, someone that's kind of, barely in that 0 to 1 year of work experience. So, just barely, getting out there, your resume should be about maybe 1 page at most. If you're a little bit past that, maybe looking at 2 pages. You don't want to go far beyond that because the recruiter is going to be limited on the amount of time that they may be able to review. So you want to, again, keep it succinct. Also ensuring that if you have the ability, because all of our applicant tracking systems at companies can be different. If you're able to, a PDF is probably the best way to be able to upload your resume to any database. Ensuring that you are listing an educational background on there, especially if you're applying to early career positions such as an internship or a full-time analyst program, post graduation. So that's really important to ensure that that's outlined, and most importantly, also including expected graduation dates. And that's as granular as saying expected graduation date May 2025. You just don't want to list a year. So you want to ensure that the month and date are there. Outline your experience in chronological order. Ensure that you're including, any type of skills that you've used. Quantify your results. Share the impact of the project. And your experience can come from anywhere from school, extracurricular activities, personal work, volunteer in the community, or job. So just remember, experience is anything that you are able to really utilize in that next part of your career. Just because you may not be earning a paycheck for it doesn't mean you can't classify it as experience. I always like to call that out just because that's how I was able to get my first job, but we'll go into that later on. I use a lot of volunteer experience that on my resume. So that really helped out. As mentioned, extracurricular activities. That can be anything as far as leadership and involvement in your school, outside of school. You want to list the dates, and even more so, call out if you've held any roles within the organization. Maybe, 1 year you started off as just a member, but now you're president of that organization. So we want to see that because that really does help us know you as a person versus just what we see on the outside, or they're like, wow, this person really has ties to their school or their community and involvement. So really showcasing your leadership experience, that soft skills. Um, when applying for positions, you want to make sure that you read the job description and notate the qualifications. As a recruiter, we recommend, applying to your top 3 roles that you see within a company. You don't want to, apply to everything that's out there just because then that could really lead a recruiter to wonder, where is this person trying to go with their career? So take a look at your top 3 roles. What is it that you're looking to do? And, set your goals on that. Submit your application for that. Lastly, ensure that you attach your resume. You'd be surprised how often people forget to attach their resume when they're applying because they're just so excited because they finally found that dream job that they're looking for. And they may forget to attach the one important thing that's going to really help us identify a candidate for that next step. And referrals. This is in one of those aspects of how does a recruiter, really navigate referrals? What does it mean to one person to another? I can tell you this that this is going, you can get a lot of different responses from everyone when you ask. So referrals, there's a couple of points on there. Are they needed before you apply? Absolutely not. Referrals, depending on the company, they can be looked at, but it's not a requirement for you submitting an application to have a referral. Could it be helpful in getting your resume reviewed? It could be, but all companies want to create a fair and equitable hiring process. So most companies will have that they will be reviewing all resumes of applicants that meet the qualifications outlined on the posting that one has applied to. Contact with the recruiter at a career fair isn't necessarily acting as referral, but it's a great way to kind of get more information. So I would say use caution when using the word referral and just knowing that it is an avenue out there, but it's not necessarily, just going to raise you to the top of the totem pole. It's just another avenue to navigate into an application pool. So a couple of tips there from a recruiter. Next, we want to talk to you a little bit about how do you build your resume according to the job description? And if we can transition to the next slide. Thank you. So, how do you build your resume according to a job description? So, most importantly, review the required and desired recommendations or requirements of the position. Do you meet those requirements? So, you're going to look at the required. Those are at any company the number one thing that everyone looks at. If someone does not meet the actual required qualifications, someone could not be moved to the next step. Then you want to start taking a look at the desired qualifications of going, great, I met the basics. Oh, wow. I have this experience that they're asking for that's extra. So you want to make sure that you call that out on your resume. Ensure that you've captured all of the relevant experience that you need to meet the requirements. So if it's saying, do you have minimum 1 year experience in XYZ field? Take a look at all the experience you've done and does it add up to that year? Does your resume reflect your total of years or is it too vague? You want to, and that's where it goes into actually putting dates in there. You did position one from January 2024 through June 2024. So there's 6 months, and now you're currently working on the next role. So you want to be clear and succinct on that. Your desired qualifications. This is where you want to ensure that you do highlight those extra desired qualifications. So now you've realized I've met the requirements. Now the next step the recruiter is going to look at is does this candidate also meet any of the desired qualifications that we are looking for? How does your experience correlate and translate to the job that you are submitting your application for? So just ensuring that you're looking at that. And before you go ahead and submit that resume or your application, have someone take a look at it for you. Always have someone review it because you're looking at your resume so often that you may not catch something that someone else may catch right away, maybe a slight typo. Or this is also a great opportunity for someone to provide you feedback of, hey, your resume is a little bit too lengthy, or great information here, but what did you mean by that? So it's always great to have that person give you the feedback. A tip that I like to provide to those when they ask, any tips I can give as a recruiter in reviewing resumes is also have someone that's not going to be a yes person and actually give you positive, concrete feedback. We all have that one person that no matter what we say to them, they're always like, oh, yes, that's great. That's great, which is nice every now and then, but when it comes to this, you want that person to be like, "Hey, you might have spelt that word wrong, or walk me through this a little bit more." So always have those people in your back pocket. We can go on to the next slide. Here we want to talk, this is going to be a little bit specific to Wells Fargo, but it could also be applicable in any type of scenario. So when you're applying, A lot of the times, organizations will have in their application portal a field of how did you hear about us? This will be really important, especially in large companies where postings that have a plethora of candidates applying, where this could be very helpful in ensuring that you're selecting the right source of how you heard about the position. So, for example, here you're all affiliated with a ship. So, if you chose to apply to Wells Fargo, you want to make sure that your organizational affiliation selected is SHIP, or of course, whichever is applicable to you, because this is also a great way for recruiters to also be able to review their applicant pools a little bit quicker by being able to filter and use Boolean searches by different types of matters in there. And it really also gives us an opportunity to see how, why did our net get casted out there, how many great candidates are we getting from ship, and this is really helpful, again, not a requirement, but it's a great way to kind of help us track applicants on there. And one tip that I will give to everyone on here is, if you've already applied to a company and this was a part of the process, but you forgot to do that, it is okay. It does not automatically disqualify anyone in any way, shape, or form. But I also encourage, don't go back and try to withdraw your application or try to update, because once you withdraw an application from an applicant tracking system, you may not be able to reapply to it again. But you could also let during the interview process or the recruiting process, let the recruiter know, I may have forgotten to notate this, but I am affiliated with XYZ, or this is how I heard about the position. So, just a couple of things to keep in mind. And next, about Wells Fargo, there's a lot of great companies out there that are looking for that stellar work to come over to Wells Fargo. So, do you belong? Let's talk about some of the benefits that we have at Wells Fargo. Wells Fargo offers hybrid work arrangements. So, minimum requirements in offices is going to be 3 days per week and then 2 remote days. Financial protection, so many different types of benefits that Wells Fargo provides to its employees, such as retirement plans, 401ks, life insurance, disability, health plans, vision, medical, dental, personal and family support. We know that everyone has a different background. And so we try to put out all the benefits out there that can correspond to everyone in a different way. And of course, everyone's going to use their benefits however they see fit for them. So someone may be looking at, when they're looking for that next role, is I want a company that offers a great matching on my 401k, where someone else can be like, hey, I just want to make sure that I get dental, medical, and vision. And Wells Fargo has a plethora of different benefits to offer here. We also have wellness coaching, and lots of fitness challenges, as we do have some platforms that allow us to have, internal competitions with ourselves to earn wellness dollars if you have a flex spending account with your health benefits, or even sometimes challenges across the company. So we try to keep it fun and entertaining. So just a few smidge points about benefits at Wells Fargo if you're looking for that career here. We're going to get into some opportunities that we also have available at Wells Fargo. So, coming soon, I was about to say to a theater near you, so I'll just say it, to a theater near you, coming live January 2025. We are going to be going live with our sophomore discovery fellowship program. So Wells Fargo does have a internship opportunity available for current sophomores, and it will go live in January. So we will have a moment to just have the screen up here. So in case anyone wants to, quickly scan that QR code or take a screenshot to look at this later on, if you're that sophomore or you know someone that's looking for a sophomore opportunity, they're literally right around the corner. So we would be very excited to see your application come through. If you're not in that sophomore opportunity section, we have other availabilities as well. And the next slide that we're going to have up here is going to be our lateral position. So if you're out of that early career stage, that you are a seasoned veteran and maybe have a little bit more experience in looking for an internship or your first job after graduating school, Wells Fargo does have other openings in our tech space as well. This QR code does take you to those opportunities, or it could lead you to other non-tech related positions as well within the Wells Fargo job site if that's what you're looking for also. So we want to encourage as well, if you want to take a screenshot or scan that QR code, if those are the opportunities that you're looking for. If just at this time you're just like, hey, I'm not looking, just wanted to hear about Wells Fargo, but would be interested in learning more, our next slide is going to give you a chance to scan our QR code to be kept in our talent pool if anything does change, or to be notified of upcoming positions that may be available, or any types of webinars that Wells Fargo has to offer. Just because you may not be considering a job opportunity in Wells Fargo doesn't mean you can't take advantage of some of the webinars that we do offer within the company. So I know that may have seemed quick, but I felt like I was talking a lot. Just wanted to go over some of the information of how to build an effective resume, what recruiters may look for, but most importantly, also wanted to have enough time for any questions and answers that you may have, as I feel that that is sometimes where a lot of the things are answered a lot easier than trying to assume or wonder what someone is out there thinking. So thank you for listening to me. And if we need to go back to any of the slides, we absolutely can. But if there's any questions that anyone has, happy to take those.
Please, this is your chance to really engage with Wells Fargo. So unmute yourselves or write your questions in the chat. So Paloma, let's say that I had like 15 internships and my resume, I want to put all of those interesting internships that I had, but then it goes to a page and one sentence, or what can I do?
No, that's a great one. So first of all, I would ask, how the heck did you get 15 internships in such a short amount of time? I would say that's where it comes down to ensuring that you're putting the most relevant internships that you feel will elevate and connect with the position that you're applying to. And one thing I just realized that I didn't mention, it's okay to have a couple different versions of your resume, tailoring to the position that you are looking for. So maybe if you're looking more for a behind the scenes type of role, so maybe we'll go generalize here, a customer service role. If of those 15 internships, some of those are related to more of a customer service, I would list those on there so that it really tells a story for that position. And then maybe keep another resume if you're looking for a different type of role and add those internships to that. So really kind of it's a live breathing document. So you just kind of want to ensure that it's being tailored to the position that you're applying to. So if I, for example, if I were going for a technology position and I've done, 3 or 4 different internships, but only in one of them was technology based and the others on there, I'd probably only want to put my technology based internship unless I was able to somehow capture those other internships to really tie into that role.
Awesome. I have a question here in the chat. So if a company, this comes from Christopher, I'm going to talk about this, but if the speaker has more questions, Christopher, please unmute yourself. So if a company does not split requirements between required and desired, how should I think about rephrasing my resume?
Can you
Christopher,
repeat that?
please expand on this, please.
Yeah, so I know well I mentioned that like if they have requirements, obviously check that you meet the mandatory requirements and then like phrasing like the desired ones as you have them. But like let's say they don't do that type of split on the job posting itself, you know, do I just think about like phrasing how many of the requirements I meet, like point blank like that, or how else should I think about it in that sense?
So if a company hasn't, if they're just like, hey, we're looking to hire for this position and there's no required or desired qualifications listed, I would focus on what the roles and responsibility of the position would be, and then
Okay.
showcase what your experience is tied to those roles and responsibilities.
So kind of match to like the role and maybe like
Mhm.
where the sector the company works in that sense.
Correct. So if they're just like, it's XYZ position, this is what your roles and responsibilities are going to be coming into this one. Take a look at it and then just be like, okay, well, it's asking for and of course I'm making this up, like it's asking for, you're going to be responsible for cash handling or however, be like, oh, wow, well, I have 6 years of cash handling. I would highlight that in there. So look for the keywords that you can tie to what your experience you have on there if they haven't listed out required or desired qualifications.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Christopher.
Of
I have another.
Also,
Oh,
the
sorry.
link for the link for the talent URL doesn't work. I try to use it, but it says the page doesn't exist.
Okay,
Yeah.
we will, the one that says join our talent pool here.
Yeah.
Okay, we will take a look at that, and what we will do is we'll ensure that we can get it over to Maria and have her, to Anna, sorry, I was looking at it, to Anna and have her send it out to everyone. It could just be that it might just need to be reactivated, but we'll take a look at that. Thank you for letting us know.
Thank
No
you.
worries. Thank you.
Thank you, Christopher. I have from Jorge Piramon. I have, could you send the link for mid-career opportunities in the chat?
So I unfortunately cannot access the chat, but we can definitely, here you go, here's the QR code.
Okay, awesome. We'll give a couple of minutes between, while people download that, from Martin. What about you working in your MBA, but you don't have experience in banking? How can you approach hiring or the interview?
Great question. So a couple of things. Just because we're hiring for technology positions within banking doesn't mean you need to have banking experience. So if you have the technical skills that are listed out in the position, whether through internships, through coursework, through volunteer activities, highlight that. As recruiters, when we're seeing that, especially if someone's going for their MBA and we may see some limited work on there, we're going to know it could be, especially if there's no break in any of your educational background, that you went straight from your undergrad into your MBA and just been doing that, you're going to be able to tell that, someone hasn't had an opportunity to be able to do that because they've been so focused on their educational studies. But it goes back to looking at how the role is posted. Unless it specifically says this position needs to have previous work experience in the financial industry, it doesn't necessarily mean that you have had to have had a technology position in another financial institution to be considered. It's just how your overall experience, how your overall story can match to what the role is that you are interested in doing.
Awesome. Martin, do you need more clarification? Please unmute yourself if you do so.
I can tell you this, I didn't have
okay.
banking experience coming into Wells Fargo 20 plus years ago, but it's just because I had cash handling experience, which I knew kind of was relevant to being a teller. So that's how I kind of matched it. Otherwise, I wouldn't have had a career here.
Go ahead, Martin.
Oh, that's okay. That's okay.
Okay, awesome. I have another question from Javier Garcia. How would I follow up with someone I am using as a referral? Let's say they have not responded or have not received communication that I have been referred for a role.
Okay, so I want to make sure I understand that. So how can you reach
Hold on for a
out?
second, Paloma. Javier, can you mute yourself and explain this a little bit better?
Yeah, of course. Basically, let's say I'm interested in a role, and I know of, let's say, maybe a past someone who was in my class or family member or someone that I know works at that company, and I'm able to use them as a referral, kind of to have a little bit more of an advantage for the position. And let's say, I communicated with them that I was looking to apply for the role, and they said they're going to refer me. But I haven't received any communication that, like, they referred me for the position, or um, the
So that can go a couple of different ways, just because one, I can only speak to that type of process with Wells Fargo. I don't know other companies, so I'll be generalized with it. So first and foremost, if someone referred you to work at a company, they could have utilized the referral system if a company has that. But that doesn't necessarily also mean that a candidate should wait for that to come about, because for Wells Fargo specifically, all candidates, regardless if they are a referral or not, will be reviewed and assessed as long as they have met the required and desired qualifications of a position. So it doesn't raise someone to the top of the totem pole or automatically say, oh, this person was referred, so they automatically get to bypass everyone. Now, if someone referred you, you got the link on there. If that person that works at the company reaches out to the recruiting team, we also what has to be taken into consideration is that while you all may think this may sound silly, your application is still something that's confidential. So us on the recruiting side are very limited to any information we can share with someone. So say someone said, hey, Paloma, I recommended Javier for a position. Can you give me an update? I wouldn't be able to provide them any information because we want to keep that confidential, because that's your information on there. So it would be more of a general response to them of thanking them for, referring over great talent. And at that point, the recruiting team would then, follow up directly with, you as the candidate, Javier, to give an update. And then if you felt comfortable sharing further information with that person, then that's completely on you, because now that's you taking your information and sharing it versus us. But what I will say, and this can apply to anyone, is if someone says, hey, I'm going to refer you to a company, doing it this way or that way, but you never get it, still would submit your application on your own, because you also don't want to miss out on that window opportunity if a position were to close down. Because what if that person forgot to send you a link, if that's what they were planning on doing, and then we can't go back and open a position because of whatever the parameters are on that.
Awesome. Yeah, that definitely didn't know that part of the recruiting process, so I appreciate that information.
Yeah, of course, it's weird because everyone's just like, but it's just an application, but it's like, but it's still your story, and it shouldn't be us telling someone else. We want you to be able to share that experience. And that's where the word referral comes a little bit, I think, a different definition for everyone. Just because if, someone referred you, you're probably in contact with that person and they're wanting to get updates as well. But I always tell everyone, just always, if you see something, ensure that you're applying. And then unless you're in a capacity where you can, if you are able to wait for them to send it. And this also does go back though to different companies could have different parameters on how referrals are received. But at Wells Fargo, we do want to ensure that a fair and equitable process is being created for all. And we will review everyone that applies as long as they have met the basic minimum required desired qualifications outlined on our roles.
Awesome. And Javier, I also saw that you had another question. What would be the best way to stand out in a role that is receiving hundreds to thousands of applicants?
That's a great question. So that's our technology internships that we get thousands of applicants on there. I would say following a lot of the tips that you may have heard here today or that you've spoken with others on is really ensuring that your resume calls out clear cut experience, leadership involvement, anything that ties to the role. Ensuring that if you are applying, for example, to an internship, ensuring that you are listing out your graduation date so that it aligns with that. As weird as it may sound, the easiest way to not stand out for a position is not listing your graduation date, and a recruiter is going to move on to that next candidate because that is an important part of the piece of it. So ensuring that it outlines on there. If you're applying for a technology internship, list your previous internships that you've had in technology field or something that's relevant to it. List out your coursework of what you are studying currently in that undergraduate degree, any affiliation with any STEM related clubs or any other type of organizations. These types of national organizations such as SHIPS, the Alphas, your SOCNAs, making sure that that's outlined on your resume as well, because that really helps us also understand that There's the experience that you're getting from your educational background. If you've had an opportunity to have done a previous internship or worked in that scope of field, but also being involved with some of these organizations also helps us see that leadership characteristic in you, what some people may call those soft skills that we may not capture from going, oh, this person has 4 years of experience with Java, but then on the other side be like, wow, they've also been affiliated with Shift for the past 4 years, so they have this great connection with knowing that they're learning some other stuff in there as well. So those are things that stand out. I know it's hard because we're looking at different resumes, but just ensuring that your resume reads well. Don't get too savvy with it that it becomes too overbearing of having too many graphics on there, so many different colors, so many several different hyperlinks or anything like that. Just keep it very, very tailored and minimum so that can also stand out in us looking at information.
Thank you, Paloma. From Tian, I have a question. How many years of experience should one have to be able to remove the graduation date from a resume?
So that will definitely be based on the position that you're applying to. So essentially for internships and for those roles that have developmental program in it that calls out in their qualifications that they're looking for someone that is currently pursuing their degree with an expected graduation date, definitely keep your graduation date listed on there. But if you're applying for a position that doesn't require that or have that in there, you can omit it. You can leave that off and then just put the information that's on there. So it goes back to reading the role and just understanding what it is. So unless it's an internship, developmental program, or the position specifically has it called out in there that it's requiring a specific graduation date, you can omit it.
Well, thank you. Jorge has a very interesting question here, Paloma. Just a recommendation. You can use ChatGPT to help update your resume. Always use your own best judgment and potentially refer to a mentor. But if you feed the job description and your resume, it can be really helpful to help you find where you have gaps, but also how you can tailor the resume to the role. Also, definitely save different versions of your resume that are tailored to different positions. Full stack engineer, mobile engineer, etc. What do you think using ChatGPT, Paloma?
I will say use caution. And the reason I say that is if you choose to do that, that is on you. Just remember anything that comes out on your resume is fair territory for any company, employer, recruiter to review and assess. So just imagine if something gets on there or translated in a way and you cannot articulate it, how is that going to look? And then, flip it on this side of if you were to say, oh, well, I used this to help me formulate my resume. So I would say just use caution on how you choose to continue to have your resume updated and keeping it a live, breathing document. What I will say is, it was mentioned earlier, but I do agree and thank you for reinforcing it, is having different, variations of your resume based on the position that you are looking to shoot for.
I have another question for you. This did not come from an attendee. So where should I update based on the job description and put those wording, of course, based on truth in my resume? Is it on for the jobs that I've done before or in a little section that I have of my expertise? Where exactly should I have those highlights in my resume based on the job description?
So I think it depends on how the highlights came about. If it's something that, if it's part of a job that you're still doing, it'd be great to outline it in that quick, those bullet points if you're still in that current role. But if it's something that's already concluded, then you always want to have that section of that you can always have those bullet points that really stand out, towards the bottom. So maybe after all of your work experience, having like, skills or other accolades that you want to speak of and achievements that can be put together towards the bottom. But if it's something that's still relevant, still in the role that you're doing, maybe it's something that you did that is still continuing to help that company or what you're doing, I would call that out right there at the top with your work experience so that it flows with it. And that allows you to tell a little bit more about your story and talk more through it.
Awesome. Please, if you have questions, feel free to unmute yourself. This is your great opportunity to connect with Wells Fargo and start practicing. You don't know when you're going to another convention or conference to talk to recruiters, so this is your chance. Okay, for the professionals here, let's say I have, hold on. Jorge, it says it's quiet. Has somebody put the mute on somewhere?
No, so that's funny. So that's actually speaking to the speaker's point about using caution with using AI. The two comments are coming from artificial intelligence note taker app. This app called Otter.ai. That's what that is. So those are just computers. Sorry about that.
No, that's great. So for the professionals here, okay, I have so much experience. I'm looking for my next challenge. How do you differentiate, or how can I differentiate between the undergraduates? Maybe your company's looking for college graduates, maybe, and not necessarily professionals, or maybe you're looking for professionals and not undergrad. So how can what is the differentiation that you see in those two resumes? And then as a professional, how can I highlight myself?
Yeah, great question. So typically for with me supporting internships and our professional development program for undergrads, we're looking at anywhere from 0 to 1 year of experience at most, no more than 1 year, because then that really puts you into that next stage of still semi entry level, but you have some work experience under your belt and can literally start, right away into a position with minimal guidance on a role that you're going into. So it goes back to what have you been doing? How have you been doing it? What have you been doing? What is the role that you're looking at? And just really ensuring that you capitalize on it. If a role says full stack software engineer with 2 to 5 years experience, minimum 2, within that 2 to 5 years, because that's still going to be considered entry level, but you're kind of getting into that, the tip of the iceberg of going into that professional role where you've been doing a couple of things here and there, but really ready to get into that. And then taking into consideration all the work that you've done. Does it add up to the minimum 2 years that they're looking for? If the answer is yes, then go forward with it. Look at the role, then take into consideration other positions that you may have done that could potentially maybe not scream out right away that this isn't on there, but in your heart that what you did with that role really can translate into the position. So find that tying connection. Maybe there was a project you did there that you can showcase on it and be able to talk to how that could fit into the position. And that goes into a couple of like the bullet points of your resume within that role.
Awesome. I have another question here from Christopher. Is the phrase beat the ATS, meaning actually true? I've heard it sometimes when it comes to writing resumes, but I'm not sure on its validity.
Okay, so at the start of the question, there was a little bit of background noise, so I didn't quite catch the first half of that question.
Is the phrase beat the ATS actually true? I've heard it sometimes when it comes to writing resumes, but I'm not sure on its validity.
So applicant tracking systems can be different at all companies, where there are some that it can help them search. What I can tell you specifically here, and this is going to sound funny, at Wells Fargo, our applicant tracking system is a live human person. Hi, I'm one of them. So there's 4 of us that review all of the applications on our internships and our professional development positions that we have available. So we are reviewing the resumes. We're not utilizing specific Boolean searches in our ATS system, our actual, job site to pull people. We are physically going into a candidate's profile, looking at their resume, work experience, and determining if they are meeting the required and desired qualifications. Other companies may potentially be using that if it, does catch certain things to help them kind of navigate the applicant pool. But of course, since I don't work for them, I really can't speak to it and wouldn't want to speak out of turn. But I can tell you with Wells Fargo that it is an actual live person looking at all of the resumes and the qualifications that are being outlined by the candidate as they apply. Oh, you're muted.
Thank you. Yeah, I guess the answer would depend on the company, but yeah, thank you.
Yeah, and that's hard. I guess we get that asked a lot, and
Mhm.
I'm just like, everyone laughs at me. I was like, hi, I'm the AI person, and they're like, I'm like, yes, I'm a real human. I was like, we still look at it. I was like, sometimes I need to clean my glasses to look at them again.
I have a question
Thank you.
for Martin. It says, are you guys using or use artificial intelligence to weed out resumes?
We are not. We are live humans looking at the resumes of all that apply. If, to be funny, if there's a resume attached.
Absolutely. Thank you, Paloma. Besides the teller position, what other roles would you recommend for applicants to apply for at Wells Fargo who do not have a technical or financial background? And will this recording be shared with us after? And I can answer that last part of the question, Tian, is yes, we will post it. It is being recorded and it will be posted in the SHIP channel in YouTube. But about the teller position, Paloma, what can you tell us?
Oh man, that's a fun one. So just take out the part that we are a financial industry. Wells Fargo is pioneering in not going anywhere. We've been here since 1852. So it would be really hard to say what other roles for you to apply to without knowing what it is that your background experience in. So what I would challenge you to do is going to our job site and typing in a couple of keywords of work that you've done, and you'd probably be surprised that a position may come about that is similarly situated to what you may or may not have done. So just don't focus on, wow, it's Wells Fargo. I need to have some type of banking experience. I need to have worked in the financial industry in one way or another, or I need to have some technical background. Only if you're applying for a technology position, then that makes sense. But just think of all the other characteristics that Wells Fargo has. We have customer facing roles. So we're going to need people that have amazing customer service skills. We have so many roles out there that it would be really hard to say, hey, apply for this, and this. It really is going to come down to what are you looking for in that next career opportunity, and have some fun, explore our career website, throw in some key phrases or some words, or narrow it down. Like if you're looking for a specific city and state that you want to work in, narrow our job careers page by that and seeing what positions are available and take a look at the roles. If you don't see something on there, you can always set up a feed that it will let you know, if something comes about. Thank you so much for putting that up there, Renee. So he's going to put in some wonderful stuff. If it doesn't come up, it may not. But as you can see, just typing in data analytics, it's not going to be just your specific one way of saying it in one way. It's going to come out with, okay, all of these roles are going to look for something that has data analytics in it. If we were to type in customer service in that find job section, it may come up with several different versions, 827 different roles that you can kind of look at, and it's not just in there. So that's what I'm saying, have fun, type in some keywords, and just don't focus so much on I need to have banking experience, read the job description, read what they're looking for, and you would be surprised how many may not start off with like must have previous banking experience or have worked at another, financial, institution prior to applying to here. Oh, you're muted, Anna.
I have a question from Warren Murillo. I hear lots of mixed ideas on cover letters. What is your take on those? And do you have a preferred resume template?
Okay, so cover letters. Personal opinion, if it doesn't require it, why do the extra work on it? Unless this is where I throw in that little loophole of where I would be an advocate for a cover letter. And sorry, I'm not trying to double down. If you're in that situation where maybe you've had a very drastic career change or educational change, and that cover letter can be your opportunity to be able to explain that before someone goes into your resume. But 9 out of 10 times that may not be the case, especially in the early career scope. That could be more on that professional, type of level setting, going really into someone that's into like a 10 to 15-year career. But unless a position really requires it, and it's mandated on their job description, I wouldn't recommend doing, much with it. I know I, haven't really read them unless like it's been required on there, or unless you're applying for a position that's really gonna, rate you on your writing skills, and they want to see that, and that's where they may ask for that cover letter. But I
Awesome.
guarantee you, if you ask, 100 different recruiters, you may get 100 different responses on that question.
Absolutely, Paloma. One question from Javier. Would it be a good idea to personally message a recruiter when interested for a role? If so, what should the message consist of?
Yeah, I mean, like, I think again, that goes to, what is your intent on there? Have, kind of taking it back, have you applied to the position? If you have, and then, you can kind of tell your message of your, trying to get an update, wanting to reach out, be very concise with your intent when you're reaching out, and just putting it on there, of the reason why. If you haven't applied to a position, then that can be kind of, you'll want to ensure that you're tailoring your message in a way that the recruiter is going to be able to understand, like maybe there's a reason that someone hasn't applied to a position. Also, don't take offense if you don't hear a response right away. We are bombarded with a lot of, outreach. So that's where I, not to sound like a broken record, is being very direct with your intent on when you're reaching out. I know that you could potentially be limited on characters depending on the type of platform that you're reaching out to someone on. So if, you're limited to that and you are a very long-winded person, the recruiter may never understand the reason for the outreach. So just kind of something quick and, easy, like, hi, I applied to said position a couple of weeks ago, haven't heard back. I understand you may be busy, but if you have an opportunity to provide me an update, be greatly appreciated, or direct me, to a different avenue. Something short and sweet like that could, potentially work. But of course, tailor it to how you feel is going to convey you, not, copy and pasting someone else's verbiage. What's going to convey you as the person reaching out.
Awesome, Paloma. So we are at 6:52. We still have some time. Please unmute yourselves or write your message or your question in the chat.
Hi, Paloma. This is Judah Richardson. I have a question. From your experience, just looking out at the industry, what percentage of companies that use applicant tracking systems are like Wells Fargo, where they have actual humans looking through it? Because from my experience applying to various places, it looks like it's probably mostly AI and not people, but maybe I'm wrong.
So I've been with Wells Fargo for 20 years and I haven't like ventured out to see, but I do hear from peers that work in other industries that they may, that they do use AI, and not a lot still use humans that are doing on it, but it's really hard for me to really put a percentage on that, since I'm not trying to be nosy and going around and looking at other stuff. I know I probably should be a little bit nosier than, per se. But I do know that sometimes what I've heard is some companies use AI just to weed out just like some generalized resumes, and then humans start going into review and everything. Here at Wells Fargo, we are literally from start to finish. Until we get to that offer stage, it's an actual human doing all of the movement and transitions of our positions.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the
Of
answer.
course. Now you got me thinking. Now I'm going to do some research on that.
Hello, unmute yourselves and ask your questions. We have 6 minutes left for this to end, so you still have time. Jorge says, Paloma, thank you so much for your perspective and insights. Really appreciate your time. Ana, thank you so much for facilitating. No worries, Jorge. That's what we're here for. Please
Yes.
yourself and ask your question. You still have 6 minutes to get to know Paloma a little bit better. What has been her experience? How she got into Wells Fargo? How, besides being a teller, how she got to this fabulous position? Please go ahead and ask.
I guess it's me again. I guess I have another question. So I'm actually an engineering manager. I review resumes myself. We're hiring people right now. So this is really informative to me to see how other industries, carry out their recruiting and whatnot. I'm curious if do you notice any regional differences in terms of preferences for how resumes are written, depending on which part of the country the job is in?
So I know that there's like, some schools that I see provide like the same template to their students just to kind of give them like that, helping them out. But I feel I kind of see like the same template over and over, just like tweaked here and there, which is great. But then also you kind of like your eyes start to train to just going to like the same areas on there. Where the opportunity where I got to see a difference is when I actually was helping review resumes for our partnership with the MIA, since we do have some roles out in London, Ireland, kind of areas, and then just seeing how their resumes were written and what the criteria is from being outside of the United States. But as far as like resumes and looking on there, I think I've seen it all from not having a template to a very, very sophisticated template where I was just like, oh gosh, I'm scared to click on it if something moves on it because it looked like it was like moving objects. Um, but I've started to see that it seems like everyone's starting to use the same kind of like genre of going in there. And I don't know if it has to do anything with, all the wonderful AI stuff that's out there, all this wonderful stuff that you can find on the internet and helping them out there. Um, but I am kind of, I'm not seeing the lengthy resumes so much anymore. That is something actually that's very, interesting, because in the past like 5 years, I would get resumes that were 3 to 5 pages long. And I think it's finally starting to resonate like, okay, 1 to 2 pages is just enough, for that resume to be submitted in there. So however it's being communicated, it's starting to get across the board, which is great.
Absolutely. And please do know that the switch, I'm trying to work with this other company to do, instead of elevator speech, how can you intertwine your resume to create your own story? Please do know that recruiters will remember you because everybody knows about elevator speeches. And you know how many elevator speeches all of these recruiters get? So you are going to be forgettable. So please join us in January of how switching it to a story that is short enough, but substantial enough for you to be remembered by that recruiter so that they can call you back, giving you a better chance to have an internship or a job. Please join us in January, but I'm still working on that. It may happen in January or February, but please, I think this is very important. How to tie your resume so when you're talking to these recruiters. In any case, Paloma, any last words of wisdom that you want to give to our attendees?
I know it's going to be sounding as easier said than done since I'm on the other side, but just remember that interviewing is you telling your story, and who's better to tell the story than you yourself? You're the one that's lived and breathed everything that you've done, and be proud of what you've done, what you've accomplished. And that's why we say capture it on your resume, write those accolades, give yourself that pat on the back to ensure that we know what you've done and how you're going to bring that to that future company.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, we're 1 minute out. I want to thank you, Wells Fargo. Thank you, Rene Contreras. Paloma, thank you so much for being here of this incredible talk about effective resumes. And send me that link. Once you get it fixed, I will send it to all the people who registered for this talk. But in the
Yes.
meantime, and thank you all for joining us for this incredible talk with Wells Fargo and your questions. Appreciate you all. May you all have a good night. And thank you again, Wells Fargo, with all my heart for being here.
Thank you, Anna.
Much. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye,
Thank you
everyone.
guys. Good night.
Thank you. Good night.